Hello and welcome back, everyone. Today, wait, let me take that from the top. Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today we are going to be doing a rundown of Tinto Talk 90 for the upcoming game with codename Project Caesar, which is going to be heralding, and by heralding I mean after release, because a herald of course comes before, much like a harbinger, both of which are more doomful sounding, but heralds the release of patch 1.0.8, which has been in the open beta, so we kind of know what a lot of it's about, and also teases the fact that we will be receiving patch 1.0.10 sometime soon, and talks about the changes. But this really raises the question, what happened to patch 1.0.9? Where are you hiding it? Release the Snyder Cut. Is it in a trunk somewhere? Who knows? But they're not telling us anything. But with that said, relatively short one. We'll talk about some of the changes a little bit, because I do think that they're quite big, so this will be a little bit longer than the length of the Tinto Talk suggests, but let's dive right in. Hello and welcome. We have a capital welcome, of course, hinting to the fact that this is the game with codename Project Caesar. Also, it has a hidden clue, a hidden hint, a hinted hint. Hinterland. This is what it must be about. There will be a new terrain type called Hinterland. To another happy Wednesday. Happy, of course, capitalized, because it is, in fact, a holiday. Today we will talk a little bit about Europa Universalis 5. That is news to me. I thought we were talking about Project Caesar. Okay, yesterday we released patch 1.0.8, which was an open beta for a week where we could iron out some blocking issues together, and tomorrow we will release an open beta for 1.0.10. Of course, raising questions, what happened to 1.0.9? Is this why 7 was afraid of 8? Yeah, because they ate... Yeah, patch 1.0.8 definitely ate patch 1.0.9. No, wait, 7 did. Yeah, 7, 8, 9. That's the math. Yeah, okay. Except it's nothing but math, it's a pun. Yeah, shout out to Mints, makes sense. What are the highlights of patch 1.0.10? Well, about 450 entries in patch notes. That's a lot. That's more than 449. There are quite a lot of things that pop to mind. New sets of advances when forming Italy, Sokoto, Manchu, Kurdistan, Malacca, and Malaya. Very excited for Malacca, because I don't think that was a formable before. I'm not 100% sure. Or it was a formable with literal nothing. And Malaya, I don't think was in there as well. So we're seeing a bit of flavor kind of that's going to be newly added here. Manchu has had some issues with their mechanics. I'm assuming this is alongside mechanics fixes for them. Sokoto is a little bit interesting as well. I thought Sokoto... It'll be interesting to see what exactly Sokoto provides. That might be a big buff to Mali, if Mali can form Sokoto. And then we see Italy. Italy is one of the weaker flavors as it stands currently in the live patch, so it'll be interesting to see what bonuses they get. And we might do a video doing a rundown of these specifically, and kind of talking about them, and maybe slot these countries in to our countries tier list. But, okay. Rebalancing of proximity, reducing some sources, making lakes and rivers more impactful, and roads when built and now ignore vegetation impact on proximity. This is... I know this doesn't look like a big change, but this makes so many countries feel so much better. If roads are overriding vegetation, a lot of countries with jungles, we're looking at you, almost every country in the game, a lot of these countries are really painful to play from the proximity perspective, and so the fact that if you just get to override the jungle, now a country like Mali, which has a ton of jungle, and that's the key issue for them, now is just super turbo unlocked. A country like, what is it, the one that everyone always mispronounces, Kumai. Kumai is going to have just an absolute insane time. It's mostly flatland from what I recall. There is some, like, difficult terrain, but the fact that vegetation is now not going to matter is really big for Kumai. It's really big for the Americas. America's going to be so much better to play because they have all that woodlands and forests, and now that's not going to be this severe detriment on your ability to push proximity. So many countries are going to feel so much better. Basically, everything that is not Europe is going to feel better as a consequence of this. well, not Europe or not the steppes, but we don't talk about the steppes. You get to play Timur and just run over everything. So that's going to be a thing. So this is going to be really, really a big thing. And then also making lakes and rivers impactful. Is this a tease? Is 1.0.9 just a patch where they only did an updated river map mode? And we'll get to see it in 1.0.10? Probably not. But rivers are already hyper impactful. The game just kind of under conveys it to you. They are one of the most critically important pieces of like the puzzle for infrastructure. They allow you to push a lot of food, which allows you to push a lot more urbanization. And then also, rivers are, because they allow the building of the irrigation building, they also are like one of the only things that affects market access. And so they're already really impactful, and I'm curious how look, that this language suggests that the rivers are not impactful right now must mean they're cooking something crazy for rivers. But okay. Some buildings like marketplaces and market villages now increase market access. This is an interesting change. This is the numbers, the devil's in the details on the numbers here, but this is potentially a huge buff to the economy, and also it's going to very, very much buff urban locations. This is going to really change balance a lot, in some interesting ways that we will get to unpack. And I'm glad that this is coming before we did an econ video on infrastructure, because this is going to change everything up so much. But continuing on, and of course we're adding improvements to AI and UI, and here are some sneak peeks of 2 quality of life features. One quality of life feature is the music gets louder and louder. Okay, just kidding, it already does that. And I have mixed feelings on that. But, okay, we are looking at production efficiency, building production efficiency. Oh, we get to see this here. Perfect. This is actually a really nice one. So currently we've, the thing is how much money you make is actually not necessarily, the heuristic of how much money you make is actually a misleading one, and this is actually on my list of beginner mistakes newer players make, is they just build the most valuable thing, and this will be a cross-section of control and market access, but fundamentally the most important thing is control and your production efficiency bonus, and the market access is less important because it has less negative downstream effects on your economy. And we won't unpack that in its entirety, but the idea is that even though this makes less ducats, it's better to build here because this uses less lumber to produce the amount of outputs it's going to have, and so it pressures the inputs less in Vicenza. And okay, if there was way less market access, it would be closer, but the idea is, like, so for example, Padova is probably better to build in than Verona because you're making like 3 times as much, even though you have a better production efficiency bonus. But per lumber, not per ducat, not per building, but per lumber, per input, Verona is a better building. And this efficiency per input is something that you don't see for the Victoria 3 enjoyers. You don't see as an important thing, but it's very important in EU5 because in Victoria 3 you just get throughput, right? And so your efficiency per input, not that important a characteristic, but production efficiency does make this kind of more of a vibe. I mean, it matters in Victoria 3 as well, but it matters like inter-PM, not intra-PM. Using the same PM here, we will have variable input efficiency, whereas Victoria 3, if you're on the same PM, for the most part, you're going to have the same efficiency. There aren't too many locations, or states rather, where you are going to have output bonuses. And even then, usually it's on the raw materials rather than the other stuff. I think the one that comes to mind is electricity, where this is an exception. But okay, you will now be able to see the prod efficiency at every location where you already have a building, so you can determine where it's best to expand, and soon we will add the support for the unbuilt buildings as well. Very, very nice. Very pleased to see it. The only thing is you will have to take into account that you're going to be able to get a certain amount more from economies of scale, but this is going to be so nice, especially if they let you sort it. I don't think that, by the looks of it, there's no sorting in the UI for that, but you can still, use your eyes. I hope. unless you're visually impaired, in which case the UI update is probably not important to you at all. But continuing on, we are going to have monthly income from the consumer goods category income. Okay, this is neat. We're going to see how much money we're making from the various different things. Usually we kind of just have an inkling of how good this is, but this is going to be really nice for being able to tell what stuff makes a lot of changes. And something I'm really excited for in this is that I think that for the people who are not coming from a Vic-3 perspective, it's probably hard to understand that the government spending is just a huge stimulus on the economy, and when you build up an army, suddenly you're making way more from weapons industry. Okay, well, that's not hard to understand. It's intuitive, but like the government refeeding into the economy is like a central loop in Vic-3. And so the fact that your spending is going to be a huge stimulus on this is going to be important. And generally speaking, probably in the early game, you will see the lion's share of the profit being in consumer goods, with your kind of initial expands. And as you get better at extracting money from the economy, you're building more civilian infrastructure like libraries, universities, etc. And you're building out more military, a higher and higher proportion will go to basic industry and weapons industry. Also, as you exhaust some of the good options for these buildings, you will push down their profitability per building, and then the raw materials will also become more important. So it'll be actually really cool to watch this shift happen, and it'll be a lot easier to draw attention to how the economy shifts during various phases and this type of thing. Currently in the UI, it's difficult to convey this type of information, even if you underlying know that it's occurring, and so that's going to be super nice. You can also see the total tax base and actual income for each category of the buildings in the building tab now. And so, we didn't even see this off to the right, the tax base and the actual taxes. This is also another thing, is like the UI, when it's showing how much buildings make, I think a lot of people are thinking this is how many ducats it's making me, and then this is how much it adds to the tax base. And there's various filters through which you go on this, and it's nice that we're getting a little bit more information, a little bit more transparency here. I think that as far as UI changes, I actually think that this is one of the few things I did leave feedback on preferring, but this is a really good change. I left a ton of feedback during the UI portion and also the pre-release portion of Access, and I don't recall actually asking for this, but it's an excellent change. I did ask for this to be able to see the production efficiency, I think. Maybe not. Either way, 2 excellent changes in the UI. Tomorrow, it's been 1 month since release. Yes. Although, that sentence bothers me. Or that clause. It's not a sentence. Call an ambulance. It's for my brain. See, this is a future retrospective on the past. Yeah, the siren just gets louder and louder as we spiral deeper and deeper. Truly, we've just been stressed, pressed, and depressed. It's been 1 month. Tomorrow, it's been 1 month. Tomorrow, the past. Okay, tomorrow, it will have been 1 month, is probably how I would word it. I don't think that this is incorrect, grammatically speaking. It's just causing me an existential crisis, so we'll move on. The damage is done. We're already spiraling. And how you guys have played the game so far? Well, the suggested countries tend to be rather popular, but there's some interesting analysis here. The game started, here are the most popular starts. I am shocked to see Castile as number 1. I would have expected them more in the 4 or 5 range. Ottomans are really high, not surprised there. Holland is a lot higher than I would have suspected. But as far as my videos go, my Holland videos, I think, doing the best, other than the Venice one. The Castile one's not doing as good as the England one, but the England one has multiple episodes, so that's difficult to evaluate. Insofar as my content production on this type of thing is a vibe. Was expecting to see Biz up here. Portugal, a little bit surprised to see them up this high, but okay. Yuan. I think that the play patterns for Yuan right now are kind of a little bit unfun, because to some extent, to some degree, it feels like you're waiting a lot, and then the initial salvo is just very overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff to do, but there's also a lot of Chinese people, and I imagine that they are more likely to play Yuan. So there's that. Hungary, I think, is a great beginner nation. Muscovy, little surprised to see them up here. Brandenburg is just kind of, I think, an EU4 kind of classic. I'm shocked to see France so low, actually. But Naples is a great one, especially for if you're a beginner and you want to play Italy. I think it's the best Italy choice. A little bit surprised to see Poland this high, Norway and Sweden. I guess not all that surprising, but like there's kind of some interesting stuff. There's no Bohemia in here. Almost all of this, with the exception of Yuan, is in Europe. A little bit surprised to see people not playing as Japan, but Japan's a little bit scuffed, so that's probably a good thing. And so, yeah, a little bit interesting. The top 5 most built buildings by players are... Is this in order? Market Village, Irrigation Systems, Marketplace, Lumber Mill, Mason. So these ones definitely make a ton of sense. A little bit surprised that people are building a ton of irrigation. I guess it depends where you're playing, but it's not super important if you're not in a food pressured area to be building irrigation. But if you are, it is extremely important, so I guess this depends exactly where people are playing. The Market Village is kind of an interesting building. I've been thinking about the Market Village a little bit. I think I saw like a thumbnail of someone who would make a video on Market Villages, and it's kind of an interesting building because it's like a Swiss Army knife of buildings. It kind of does a little bit of everything. It falls off really hard, but in the early game, it's really a very nice building to have, and it just does like a little bit of everything. But I think it does, much like a Swiss Army knife, it kind of is a little bit worse at everything than the other buildings that, like, constitute it. But now, adding... The fact that it adds laborers and soldiers is a bigger deal now, and villages in general. And so I have to take a look at the levies numbers a little bit better, and levies also I think are just really weak right now anyways. Still need a little bit more testing. I assume they're going to get rebalanced a little bit, but the Market Village is like, okay, it acts like a pseudo granary, but and it acts like a pseudo marketplace. I think it gives 0.2 or 0.1 or 0.25. I forget the exact number of trade capacity it gives. It gives some trade capacity, right? It gives some food storage, and it gives a PM. But the PM is kind of a lot weaker than like a normal building PM, but you can build it in rural areas. Okay, and then the granary effect is half as good as a farm village, and it's a lot weaker than a granary, but the granary net costs you money, and so the granary is a little bit better if just from that perspective. And then the market, it's a lot less efficient than a marketplace, but you can build it in rural areas. And so maybe we do a video about villages, but the point I was going to make is like you could build like one of all the buildings that the market village does, and probably be net more efficient than the market village, but the market village gets to do it all. It gets to do it all in a rural location, which isn't necessarily a thing, and it has a very important function in that specifically for jewelry, if you don't have any gold or silver in your market, the market village actually just becomes incredibly important. So I'm just thinking out loud because I saw a thumbnail about that was kind of a little bit of an interesting thing. Didn't watch the video, but anyways, a quick glance at the estate privileges granted. You do like everything giving your peasants. A quick glance at the estate privileges granted. You do like giving your peasants weaponry. Oh, okay, he's reporting on what people do. This is not order. This is not a command. This is what you guys like doing for privileges. And when it comes to modding, the most common used mods are the various cheating menu mods, womp womp. But the community flavor pack is rising dramatically in popularity. Okay. Interesting. Short and sweet. Unlike this rundown of this very short dev diary where we have had a bit of an extended discussion, but this is going to be a big deal. I'm also curious what sources of proximity they are reducing. I have for a long time been kind of beating the drum of I think that proximity modifiers should be and this is kind of the point where like, to some extent, I'm a little bit disappointed to see reduction of some sources of proximity, because that to me suggests that they are disinterested in reworking proximity as a modifier to be I think that it should be reworked such that you don't have discounts on proximity, because discounts, instead of added efficiency, are just really, really difficult to balance. And there will be power creep in a bunch of different places, because discounts have increasing marginal returns. In terms of how video games represent stuff mathematically, discounts will have increasing marginal returns, right? The first 25% discount allows you effectively to project out 33% for, or it allows you to project, I think, 33% further. Let's rewind that a little bit. In terms of the math, the first 25% discount is going to give you 25% off. The second one that you get is going to give you 33% off relative to what you had before. The third will give you 75% off. Or sorry, we'll give you 50% off, because you go from having 50% cost to 25% cost. And the final 25% reduction will give you 100% off. And so, as you get more and more of proximity cost reduction modifiers, they get more powerful. They might put in a floor, because currently there's no floor, and you can reduce proximity cost to, like, actual 0. Or the proximity cost is always 0.001 or 0.01 at the minimum figure, but that's effectively 0 in terms of percentage reduction. But as it stands, if you had an increased efficiency modifier where instead of you get minus X percent, what you have is the new cost of the proximity is, or like, every location connection gets a flat amount of proximity, and what changes is how efficient that is at filling up the cost required to move one location over. And what I mean by that is, in terms of the math, instead of just a minus X percent, you would get the new cost of moving is 1 over 1 plus X, where X is your efficiency modifier for proximity. And what that means is that if you were to get plus 100%, you would get, it instead would cost you half as much, because 1 over 1 plus 2, in parentheses for 1 plus, or 1 over 1 plus 1, parentheses for the 1 plus 1, you would get, it's going to be 1/2 the cost. So plus 100% efficiency, 1/2 the cost. But if you get plus 200% efficiency, it's 1 over 1 plus 2, then it's 1/3 the cost. And if you get another 300%, it's going, or another 100% for 300%, it's going to be 1/4 the cost. And so for every plus 100% modifier, you could move basically an additional location over, but you won't have this increasing marginal return thing. And so it makes it so that you can't, because the problem with increasing marginal return modifiers is the modifiers are either horribly overpowered, you have to basically have none of them, or they just suck super hard when you don't have a lot of them. Now, proximity affects control, and it's important enough that even with small modifiers, it's pretty valuable. But it is so insane once you start getting a lot of the modifiers, how powerful proximity is, and it makes it so that they have to somewhat neuter the modifiers in general. And so the first 10-20% is not really that high impact unless you already have a big empire. But even then, it's overall not increasing what's going on by anywhere near as much as the later portions. And so it starts to feel extremely good later. And then, obviously, the last 10% just gives you everything for free. And so it's just very, very powerful. And to me, the fact that they are rebalancing it suggests that there's not going to be a rework, which is a little bit disappointing. But I think we've belabored it. There's going to be a bunch of infrastructure on 1.0.10. We will probably, when they release more of a patch note type of thing, we will be diving into it. But for now, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and other than that, have a happy Wednesday.